It's time for today's face-off on Fox Soul. Challengers Quan LX and Big Angry Adams ready to go blow by blow on those hot topics. Face-off on Fox Soul starts right now.
And Sarasota is going viral after the driver is caught on body camera trying to flirt her way out of trouble. And while a lot of people are laughing at this exchange, police say this was no laughing matter.
Yeah, Fox 13's Aaron Mesmer shows us why.
Oh.
You all right?
Yes.
A little stumble.
What's your first name?
Sophia.
And an introduction.
We are going to investigate a DUI.
And this Sarasota police officer's DUI investigation is off to a pretty standard start, but not for long.
I am under the influence, but I did not drive. Swear to God.
But you were driving.
I was not.
22-year-old Sophia Ross, a Hooters waitress, didn't seem to recall driving her car. When the officer asks Ross to participate in a sobriety test, the interaction goes from strange.
Okay, do you want to try this first exercise for me?
I will do anything for you, Daddy.
To inappropriate.
We're gonna make out here. We're gonna make out here.
No, we are not.
Can't keep my hands off him. Sorry.
Unfortunately, you're going to have to.
The officer can be heard ignoring the advances and warning an unfazed Ross that his body camera is recording everything.
Everything that we
Don't be such a nerd, bro.
body cam, and that body cam is public record.
I am a nerd. Show it to the body cam. I am a nerd.
But anything we do is...
I am a nerd, bro.
This video from November has now gone viral, but neither Sarasota police nor Mothers Against Drunk Driving see anything funny about it.
While at the jail, the driver did do breath test samples and did blow more than 4 times over the legal limit, which...
In this round, here's Quan LX.
Charles, we just watched a video of a situation out of Sarasota, Florida. A young Hooters waitress was pulled over for driving under the influence. And from what we witnessed on the video, it's quite obvious that she was suffering from intoxication. And
Don't be a nerd, Quanell. She was just trying to be friendly.
I want to commend the officer for not taking the bait, because she was attempting to get you in the back seat to give you the poo nanny, but also file a lawsuit later saying you raped her and sue you and the department. But I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that there are many women who can testify and officers who can testify around the world they've been pulled over by cops that a fresh set of nice nipples don't get you out that traffic citation. I've seen a fresh set of nipples make a priest forget about the church. I've seen a nice set of nipples make a Muslim forget the Quran. And I've seen a fresh set of nipples make a cop forget he's wearing a badge. You gotta be careful with that creation from God himself, because many men have fallen, powerful men, because they succumb to what that Hooters waitress was offering. But after you make bond, baby, and your charges have been filed away, it's your turn.
That's my turn? I thought there was something coming. I thought you were going to say, other than you, I thought you were going to say that there was something she could do. You didn't complete the sentence.
No, I witnessed what Nipplelicious was trying to do. But Nipplelicious, she's just out of control right now.
This young lady was a .318, right? That is alcohol poisoning level. That is a threat to her life level of alcohol, right? She probably did not remember at all that she drove. When you're in a blackout, that is when you're the most dangerous to everyone else on the road. People that are blacked out will lose completely control of their vehicle without realizing it. They'll go flaccid, so when they hit the impact, they don't have the seizure injuries that sober people have, right? She posed an incredible danger. She probably doesn't remember any of her flirting comments. All of her inhibitions were down.
She don't remember.
It was completely inappropriate. But when you talk about...
You think she forgot about that?
When you, .318, you are absolutely in a
blackout. She wasn't that intoxicated.
But she was more than 4 times the legal limit.
Excuse me, yes she was, but she's a woman you could tell that was accustomed to drinking like that.
Well,
because what did she say to him? I'm willing to do anything for you, Daddy.
I mean, she clearly was trying to use her
Did you hear
sexuality.
That part? I'd do anything for you, Daddy.
But I think there's one thing that you got wrong, because yes, in fact, there are there are cops that get in trouble for using traffic encounters to try to get personal information, then calling people after, and they should all be fired and indicted. That's wrong. And there are plenty of women that, not plenty, but there are some women. I didn't expect you to deep dive into misogyny over this story.
What do you mean?
But there are some women that will use their sexuality as an effort to not get a ticket. Like we talked about Ice-T. He thought just being rude would not get him a ticket. And I do think being nice and friendly, but I'll tell you, they tell you in the police academy, you know, a badge will get you a lot of women, right? Women seem to love the uniform.
As
and
a
the
retired
badge.
cop, testify.
I'm not retired. I was a cop
Don't
for 6.5
test
years.
a lie,
And
testify.
I already
Go
knew
ahead.
my wife and was dating before I
Testify.
became a police officer. But absolutely, there are women that'll unbutton some buttons and show. But the rule is that they tell you the badge will get you a lot of women, but it only takes one woman to get your badge.
That's
right.
right.
That's a phrase. But more importantly, especially before body cams, right? If a woman was acting sexually suggestive or inappropriate with you on a traffic stop, the rule was you always had to write them a ticket. Because if you didn't, and then they came back and complained and said you were the one being inappropriate, you would not have the citation in your notes from the citation. And that's the thing, you have to document, because documentation is good for good cops and bad for bad cops, right? So if I had a woman, and I did, I'd have a woman unbutton their shirts. I never had anyone pull it. I did have a woman once hike her skirt all the way up so I could see the whole thing.
Excuse me, the whole thing.
The whole thing.
What whole thing?
Right, the vagina.
The poontang pie.
Okay, and she got a
She
ticket.
showed you the
And she got a
poontang
ticket. She
pie.
was mad, and I wrote on the notes of the ticket. She was not asked out of the vehicle.
And you tore that ticket up before you turned it in.
No, I turned it in with the notes on it.
Yeah, I bet you did put some notes on it.
No, because that's the thing, to protect your job. It's like I had people offer me money before to not do it. I pulled a guy out of the car once. Texas A&M engineer. He had a little sticker on his back window. Pulled him over in his little Honda Accord on Highway 3. This is probably like 1997. I had just started law school. I pull him over, right? And I walk up, and he tries handing me a $10 bill with his driver's license.
Ignorance.
And I looked at him. I said, "You don't even have the decency to try to hand me $100." He's like, "Well, my dad said do this younger, right? He's just out of college." I took him out, handcuffed him, put him on told him he was going to jail for attempted bribery. He's crying. Now, I just wrote him the tickets, right? But the truth is, my rule, we talked about this earlier in the week, my rule was if you had your driver's license and your insurance and you were nice, I never gave you a ticket. I don't care what it was. Now, if you're drunk, it's different, but I never gave you a ticket. So he only got the speeding ticket, and he was like 20 over because he tried to bribe me.
No, for the sake of transparency.
Because same thing with showing off your body,
but
you got to write the ticket.
For the sake of transparency, I once represented a woman who claimed that an officer sexually assaulted her in a traffic stop because she was drunk. You with me?
Right.
And he did not arrest her on the scene at the moment. You with me? But she lied on that cop. The cop never did those things. And then come to find out later, it was learned through search warrants that this woman worked in the sex industry. So she knew how to manipulate to get an officer in trouble, to get out of you know, a criminal charge like that. Now you bring up the Duke story. These were women,
players, they had their lives ruined.
and we all was outraged in the black community that these prestigious uppity white boys, this lacrosse Duke team, had raped these.
I bet you were marching back then.
Let me tell you, to rape these two women, the father reached out to us. I listened to the story, and I told the brothers, don't go down there for that. They went ahead and went. I said, I want no part of it. There's something wrong with your story. Them brothers went anyway, and I did not go.
A lot of white people did too.
And it was a lie.
The whole world
and it was
went
a
after
lie.
You know what? Ain't nobody can. Where is the world apologizing to those young men who went through years and years of nonsense, right?
I agree.
But more important, this woman. She was clearly blackout drunk. She obviously
she wasn't drunk.
Hooters isn't the sex industry.
She wasn't drunk.
But you get better
That woman
tips.
was intoxicated.
She
wasn't drunk.
She was drunk.
How can you be drunk and say, I'll do anything you want to do,
Because
daddy?
she was drunk.
I'll do anything you want to do, daddy. That ain't drunk, that's intoxicated.
Nurse sits behind bars after, in some instances, newborn black babies were found with serious injuries, broken bones. Enrico
Doctors Hospital says staff found 3 babies with, quote, unexplainable fractures. 26-year-old Aaron Strothman is charged with malicious wounding and felony child abuse. My next guest is...
In this round, here's Charles Big Angry Adams.
You know, Quanell, that was our Fox 26 and Fox Soul colleague, Isaiah KRIV, talking about this horrible story out of Virginia in a NICU, which I only know how to pronounce that because my surgeon daughter told me, but you've got this intensive care unit for this neonatal intensive care unit for these young babies, these fragile babies, these premature babies, these helpless. There's not a human being that is more helpless than a baby in a NICU, right? And it seems to be racially targeted, right? I guess we're doing a show on wild white women, and this is so much worse than the DWI we just talked about. But this monster, at least accused monster, alleged monster, but it appears monster, got away with, for almost 2 years, with what appears to be violently abusing incredibly delicate young black children. And the question, yeah, she needs to go spend the rest of her damn life in prison, right? But the question is, how did she get away with it for so long? It ended up with this hospital having to shut their NICU, which is also a bad thing, right? Children born into that hospital would have to be transported elsewhere to get the intensive care treatment. And it obviously, the unbelievable amount of pain and terror, not just the babies, but the helpless parents, helpless babies, helpless parents. This should have been our face-off F-up. She should be the villain of the month. I don't know if it was racially motivated, but unless she just only had black babies in there, it does seem like it was targeted hate crime against the most delicate, the most fragile, the most vulnerable black people on this planet, and it's disgusting.
The only thing I disagree with what you said was that she should not spend the rest of her life in prison.
Oh, yes, she should.
She should go to the graveyard, because those parents of those children whose bones were snapped and broken on purpose should be allowed to have 10 minutes with her in a quiet room and let the consequences and the chips fall where they may. She is not worthy of a jail cell. She earned her way to a graveyard. Charles, let me say this to you. Do you know that this is not new around black people and with black experiences with medical doctors, etc.? Do you know that you've had nurses documented doing the same thing, causing bodily injury on purpose and killing black babies in Ghana that were from Europe? They came from Europe and did this. This was in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s in Libya, in Tanzania, in Nigeria. There are white nurses in prison right now in Africa who were carrying out medical experimentations on children, breaking their bones to see what a black child's pain level response was. This is nothing new.
So are you just saying that
this is nothing new?
You're just saying that white female nurses are prone to this?
I'm saying that we as black people have experienced this on a global stage.
Okay, so
and guess what?
I mean, you talk about
this. This is not the first time in America that white women as nurses carried out heinous medical experiments on black babies. It's documented. Okay. This is not the first time in America.
But every time we have this individual incident, right, what you do is because I don't think she did anything that makes her eligible for the death penalty. I don't believe in extrajudicial
Stop. See, now you're lying again.
Well, she didn't kill anyone.
But you're lying.
Okay.
Because if that was your baby, she snapped your baby's arm in half, what would you do?
Oh, I'd be very upset.
What would you do?
But I don't believe in extrajudicial
She'd go to the graveyard.
Murder. Okay, I get that you're very angry with her, but what you tend to always do is then you extrapolate this one incident to white nurses generally, right, and a criticism of white people. And if we did that, if white people did that, there are white people that do that. They're called racists, right? And if white, like you had the black man that threw the white guy that was just standing there waiting for the train in front of the train in New York a couple days ago.
Mentally sick individual.
And it's been happening over and over again. And for some unknown reason, it's been happening a disproportionate amount of times of African Americans throwing white people in front of trains, right?
But there have been a few white ones do the same thing too in New York.
Overwhelmingly,
New York out of control.
Overwhelmingly, it's been the other way.
But I gave you factual data, Charles.
Hold on, and I'm
it's
giving
simple
you data.
Google searches.
But here's the thing.
They did this in America.
Right.
White nurses.
Hold on. Right. You also have black nurses that have committed crimes
Charles,
and done violence.
but these white nurses did this and were instructed by white doctors to do this right in America on black babies.
Can I finish my thought? right? If every time a black person committed a horrible, violent crime, white people then want to speak generally about black people, that makes those white people appropriately labeled racist, right?
The way they do Hispanics today, when they highlight immigrant crime.
The argument is that you like to make that almost seems like every day here about
you
white
do it
people.
too.
No, I don't. I talk
when you
about
always
the
try to compare who kills the most in America, who commits the most crimes in America,
I'm talking about
and you always point the finger at black people.
I'm
you
talking
do the
about,
same thing.
I talk about statistics and actual statistics.
And those statistics are screwed that point out black criminals. That's what you do.
In fact, when you brought it up, you were saying that it was slavery to put a disproportionate number of African Americans in prison.
Because slavery never ended according to the U.S. Constitution.
Hold on. The only places we have slavery in the world now
in America
are in Asia and in Africa.
The private prison industrial complex is legalized slavery in America right now today.
I would agree that the drug war has horrible consequences for poor Americans and an outsized number of poor African Americans, and it's unfair, right? But again, when you look at the statistics on robbery, on murder, on assault, on family violence, there's an overrepresentation, and it's not talking about black women, right? This is
so you're doing it now.
No, but I'm talking about black
the same thing you just accused me
hold
of.
on.
You're trying to highlight black male crime using skewed numbers.
Because I'm not using skewed numbers, I'm using accurate numbers, but more importantly, I'm only talking about violent male criminals who happen to be black.
And I'm only talking about nurses who have been proven to commit these crimes on black children, documented in America and documented throughout Africa. These are documented cases.
I am not extrapolating that to all black men, because even though it's a larger percentage of black men than it is of white men that commit violent crimes, it's still an incredibly small percentage of black men. And to use that to condemn black men generally,
but that's what you white guys do all the time.
That's not what I've ever done. When I was talking about prisons, I was saying,
right here on the show,
you're the only one that does that in the show. We're talking about this one evil woman that did an evil thing.
And
you were trying to suggest that there's this mass but you're trying to argue there's this mass of evil white nurses targeting black babies, and that's not true.
Simple Google search.
Okay, you found other incidents of evil people.
I will say this. This woman, to put her in prison and let the taxpayers pay for her health care for the rest of her life and dental work, and hell, now you can get breast implants for free. Now you can get breast implants in jail for free. You get free. In some states, they'll give you free plastic surgery so you'll look better in the penitentiary. Charles, I'll be damned she should get any of that. Ask those mothers what she should get. Of those babies whose limbs were broken and tortured, that's torture. Ask those those mothers of those babies who were tortured what she should get.
I think she should spend the rest of her life in prison. I understand that the victims are heartbroken. We have murderers regularly getting churned out in California and New York because of restorative justice and overcrowding, who now we've seen in the last 3 years, we've seen an incredible number of murder recidivism, right? Because we're just putting people on the streets again, right? We need to go back to people dying in small rooms in prisons and spending the rest of their life thinking about the horrible thing they did, right? And
that ain't justice.
As opposed to restorative justice,
that ain't justice,
where people murder people, people rob people, people do these horrible things. They have their charges reduced by Alvin Bragg and other idiot DAs in this country, and they just say,
this woman,
it's woke and politically correct to let you violent criminals go back there and do more violence.
Breaking the bones of black babies. What would be justice would be
somebody breaking her damn bones.
To find a Sexy Red concert or find a Gorilla concert. Let everybody know y'all bringing her to the concert. Tell all the sisters she gonna be at the concert, and y'all take her and drop her in the middle of the Glorilla concert or the middle of the Sexy Red concert and say y'all come back and get in 30 minutes.
Okay, so now you're
justice.
You're advocating for lynching.
That ain't a lynching.
Yes, that's exactly what a lynching is.
That's not lynching.
That's exactly what a lynching is.
That's called the proper prescription to a sickness and an illness.
Well, and people committing lynchings, they had the same mindset, right? They said, this person committed a rape.
But our problem with lynchings as black people, we had innocent people being lynched for crimes that we had never committed.
You're right. You're
this
absolutely right.
broad is guilty.
Hold on. yet innocent white people lynched too. But you also
and they were burned too
but you also
as
had
witches, and they were never
black
guilty.
People and guilty
But
white
Charles,
people lynched.
this ain't no
and
lynching.
we don't support
They got on
extrajudicial
video.
violence.
They got on video doing this.
Look, we need to go back to
She's
putting
on video breaking
bad
rims.
people like her in prison for the rest of their damn life. We don't need to be advocating for extrajudicial violence, which we have far too much of going. It's like all the idiots applauding that guy that shot the doctor in the back of the head. We have to actually have a criminal
Shot the
justice
doctor or the
system.
CEO?
The CEO. You're right. The CEO.
American patriot. I want to say to police officers, be very careful, for there are many women out here, more than people like to admit, who would proposition you to get out of a criminal situation only to come back and say you sexually assaulted them and not only cost you your badge, but cost you your freedom. But I also want to say now about this nurse that we talked about. It's sad what is taking place in America now that parents cannot trust their children being safe in the hospital. But this lady did this for an extended period of time, and why did this go on for so long? I would hope and pray they get the best lawyers that they can find and make sure that they're financially accountable and responsible, making them babies whole.
I think we need to point out there are far more men actually attacking women than women making up sexual assault attacks. I applaud the Sarasota officer. He did a great job. He's very professional, and she represented a .318, a true danger, and I hope she suffers a real consequence. I also hope this nurse goes to prison for the rest of her life. What an evil, evil woman targeting the most vulnerable people in this country. In a NICU, she's evil. But we can't extrapolate this to all nurses or suggest, like Quanell did, that this is a white nurse problem that is globally attacking black children. When we see crime, what we need to get better about in America again is when somebody does something really, really horrible, that either they stay in prison for the rest of their dang lives or they stay there so long that they can't commit more crimes. Because what we're seeing right now in America is restorative justice and whiny, woke nonsense turning the wheel, putting murderers back on the streets, and they're committing more murders. Hopefully this woman dies in a prison.
That's it for the Face Off on Fox Soul. We'll catch you next time.